In this video, we're going to discuss the second part of prisms, which involves finding surface area and volume. The first thing that we're going to talk about is finding the surface area of a prism. We're going to use the formula S equals PH plus 2B. Okay, if you notice, the P and the B are both capitalized, and that's because we break those down a little bit farther. P stands for the perimeter of the base. H stands for the height of the prism, okay? Now, it's really important when we talk about prisms, okay? The base are the two parallel faces, okay? Now, in this rectangular prism, you have to be careful because you could have more than one base. So here it's labeled, this is your base, okay? So these are your two bases. The height of the prism is the line that connects the two bases. Okay, so it's important when we talk about the height of the base versus the height of the prism. B is the area of the base. All right, so this is important because you have to know what shape your prism is. Because remember, when we talked about classifying prisms, we classified them according to their bases. So we could have triangular prisms, octagonal prisms, trapezoidal prisms, all sorts of prisms, and so we classify them according to their base. So it's important that you know the area of the polygon to find the area of the base, and I'll show you a few examples here. So the first thing here we're going to find is the surface area. So like we talked about earlier, that big P stands for the perimeter of the base. So we're going to add up the base right here. We have 4 on one side, and then we have 2 on the other side. So we're just going to add those up together, okay? 4 plus 2 is 6, and we know that these sides are opposite are the same. 4 plus 2 is 6, 4 plus 2 is 6, 6 plus 6 is 12. So we have 12, okay? H is the height of the prism, okay? So that's 6. Then we have 2 times the area of the base. Now, if we notice here, our base is a rectangle. In a rectangle, we have area is length times width. So we take 4 times 2, which is 8. So now we take 12 times 6, which is 72, and we add it to 16, and we get 88 inches squared. So that would be your answer. For this one, it says find the surface area. We're going to use the same formula. This is what I was talking about earlier about knowing your bases, okay? So here, it's a triangular prism, okay? So we classify it because it's a triangle. Those are the bases that are parallel to each other. So the first thing that we're going to do is add up the base, the perimeter of the base. So we're going to take 12 plus 16 plus 20, and that's going to give us 48. Now we're going to multiply it times the height of the prism, okay? The height of the prism is the line that connects the bases, so that would be 28. Then we're going to take 2 times the area of the base, all right? Now this is a triangle, so our base area would be 1/2 base times height, right? Because that's the formula for the triangle area. So we're going to take 1/2. Okay, if we look here, the 20 is across from the hypotenuse, right? So the legs are the base and the height. So we're going to take 12 times 16 and divide that by 2, which is 96. So we're going to put in 96 right here. So now we can finish this out. We're going to take 48 times 28, which is 1,344, and we're going to take 2 times 96, which is 192, and then we're going to add those two together, and we're going to get 1,536 millimeters squared. To find the volume of prisms, we're going to use volume equals big B times H. Now, big B still stands for the same thing, area of the base, and then H stands for the height of the prism. So for each of these, we're going to calculate the surface area and the volume. So we're going to start with the surface area since we already did one of those earlier and we're good at those now. So we're going to find the perimeter of the base, all right? So again, we're not sure which one is the base, so we're going to assume that it's the one that it's sitting on, okay? Um, so we're going to say the perimeter, okay, is going to be 3 plus 5, which is 8, and then 3 plus 5, which is 8, so that's 16, times the height of the prism, which is 7, and then 2 times the area of the base. This is a rectangle, so we're going to take length times width. 3 times 5 is 15. So now we're just going to finish that out. We're going to say 16 times 7, which is 112. 2 times 15, which is 30. So our surface area is going to be 142 millimeters squared. Our volume is going to be the area of the base times the height of the prism. So the area of the base, we already talked about that earlier, right? We're going to take 3 times 5, which is 15. And then we're going to multiply it times the height, which is 7. So we have 15 times 7, which is 105. Okay, now if you'll notice, remember earlier when we talked about volumes of rectangular prism, we used length times width times height? The reason that we're going to use this formula now is because this only works if it's a rectangular prism, because base is length times width, right? That's what we did here. We took length times width, which was the big B, and then we multiplied it times the height. But if we have a different type of base, this formula doesn't work. So this one works no matter what type of prism you have. So that's the reason we're going to use that one now instead. So this one is a triangular prism. Okay, so we're going to use perimeter of the base times height plus 2 times the area of the base. Okay, now a prism we know is going to have a right triangle. Okay, so this is going to be our right angle right here. Okay, because we have a 5 and a 5. Those are opposite. We know those are going to be the 45-degree angles, and then this is going to be the 90-degree. Okay, so we're going to add up the perimeter of the base. Okay, this is our triangles are our two bases. So 5 plus 5 is 10, plus 6 is 16. Then we're going to take the height of the prism. Okay, remember the height of the prism is what connects the two bases. So we have 11, and then we have 2 times the area of the base. Okay, now here area is 1/2 BH. Okay, so here we have 1/2. Now our base and our height of the prism are the 5 and the 5, okay? It's not the 6 because that's across from the hypotenuse, or that's across from the right angle, so this is the hypotenuse. Okay, so your base and your height are the 5s. So we have 1/2 times 5 times 5, which is 12.5. So now we're going to take these and finish those out. We're going to take 16 times 11, which is 176. And then 2 times 12.5, which is 25. And add those together, and that's going to give us 201. We have 201 meters squared. Okay, now volume is big B times H, right? The area of the base times height. And this is what I was talking about earlier, right? We can't use L times W times H because the big B is not length times width. The big B is now 1/2 BH times H. Okay, so that's why we have to use this formula. Okay, now we already found the area of the base, right? Our triangle, it was 12.5. So we're going to take 12.5 and we're going to multiply it times the height of the prism, which we know is 11. And that's going to give us 137.5 meters cubed. And that is the end of the second part of prisms.